Today I'll be taking a look at the Silverline heat gun. Okay, now today I'll be taking a look at the Silverline 2000W hot air gun. It's fully adjustable and it says up to 600 degrees C on the box. We'll take a look at the box in a minute. I've been using it. I did need to use it. Like I said, I've had to replace one that got damaged. I should have replaced one earlier. I've been getting away with a little gas torch in the meantime, but I finally got around to getting round and getting the job done. Now this is part of what Silverline calls their Silver Storm range. Just drop that in anyway, you know, whatever that means. It's obviously the name of their power tool range is what they do. The reason why did I pick the Silverline heat gun over anything else that's out there? Well, to be honest, my previous heat gun was an Aldi Work Zone one. Actually, I picked up on a whim, and I did use that a lot. It's probably one of the most heavily used power tools, probably even more so than power drills that I use, mainly to do with paint stripping, both indoors and outdoors, and that's exactly what I've just been using it for. As you can see, I use this this nozzle here. That's one of the nozzles that it comes with for stripping gloss paint already, as you can see, because there's some on there, and as you can see, that gloss paint that's melted has just give that a bit of a tough bit of toughness to get off. It's acted a bit like glue, but it gives you on the notch a little thing there to put a little screwdriver blade in and just prise it off anyway. But that's the one nozzle that you see on there. Obviously, if you bring the box, that's what the nozzle looks like without the cap on there. What comes with it? You do get various caps. We'll take a look at them in a minute, obviously. But like I say, that's the box. Silverline's basic box design with the blue that we've seen before, and the product, if you do register it online, does come with a 3-year guarantee, so you have to register it online, which is good for a power tool. 3 years, just like their you know, hand tools. I think the hand tools one is a lifetime guarantee, but you know, a 3-year isn't bad for a lot of these power tool companies' power tools. You know, a lot of them just give you 12 months, some of them do, things like that. So you know, the moving parts and all that is a bit more of a concern to them, I suppose. But like I say, the reason why I picked this Silverline heat gun over a lot of the others is because, yeah, it's a basic analog heat gun. Obviously, you know, you plug it in, runs off the electricity in a similar way that a hairdryer works. Obviously, it's a lot hotter than a hairdryer. This one actually goes down so low that it could actually be used as a hairdryer. Not that you'd want to. You know, a slight knock and you'd burn your scalp off. So it probably wouldn't be the best thing for you to do. But they are basically, heat guns are basically hairdryer. You know, a lot hotter hairdryers by design. You even get some hairdryer heat guns that are like the old 1950s style hairdryers that goes up with the circular part there and then out at a right angle. You can still pick some that look exactly like the 1950s hairdryers, but they are heat guns, so they're like industrial ones as well, tend to do it like that. So it is rather strange. It's basically a hairdryer on steroids. That's for those obviously that don't know anything about them. Now this one has a trigger on the back as a thumb switch, in 3 speed selections, 1, 2, 3. But the main reason why I chose this one is because it does have a dial to dial in exactly the heat for each of those speed selections there. You can fine tune it in wherever you want, where you can't really, for the price point, you can't really do that with any of the other heat guns out there. And it's basically exactly the same as the one, the Aldi Work Zone that I had, that I used for years, and that had a dial on the back as well, and it had a trigger switch for the different steps. So I wouldn't actually, in fact it's that much like it. Even the top comes off if you need to open the unit up. You know, that obviously keeps it together to stop it from coming apart when all the screws are out of the body. So you have to take that off to do that, but easily goes back on. Obviously, like I say, that'll see the seam. When you take all the screws out the body, you have to remove that to be able to take it apart if you need to repair anything. Like I did, I had to on my old Aldi Work Zone a few times. It was the cable. I had to reseat the cable in every now and again. But the Aldi Work Zone one just give up the ghost. And it just went once, and then that was, I don't know if anybody remembers, I said electrical item gave me an electric shock. It was the old heat gun off the trigger. But hairdryer, like I say, same basic principle as hairdryers. Hairdryers, I've known hairdryers to give people electric shocks on the switches, little electric shocks on the switches over the years. So it's the same basic design and same basic problems there. So I threw that one out, obviously, and I was looking for a new one ever since, and I wanted one with a dial that I could tune, an ordinary analog one that I could dial in the temperature precisely with. And this is one of the only ones that can do that at the price point, you know, between well, up to the £20 point. This was around the £20 mark. Usually all the others out there, the real cheap, I mean they're probably all from the Far East, let's be honest, but they're manufactured now, but the real cheap ones out there, you know, from about a tenner up to around the 20 point, and even up to the £25 point. I've seen one 29 in a store, and all that had was 2 speeds on a trigger, and that's hot basically, or warm and very hot, and that's all you've got to deal with. Now to me that isn't good enough, because if you strip paint from window frames or anything like that near glass and things like that, you have to you dial the temperature right down so it doesn't crack the glass or damage the glass, but it's good enough to strip the paint. Obviously you take other precautions as well, like you can put some like a thin piece of board in front of the pane of glass so the heat doesn't directly hit the glass as well, and things to take other precautions. But obviously being able to dial the heat down exactly the point where you can peel the paint blisters and you can peel it off without damaging the glass is a bonus there. Other things like shrink wrapping things and things like that, you need to be able to, you know, get it just about right to do that without melting the not just the shrink wrap but the wires that you're trying to the soldered joint that you're trying to cover up. Also vinyl adhesive wrap on vehicles. I use a bit of that with the motorbikes and things like that people have seen before. You want to be able to do that without melting a plastic body panel for a motorbike, as well as the ripping up, the melting and setting fire to the vinyl wrap itself. So those ones that have just got two speeds, hot and very hot, you know, or warm and very hot, they're the warm one probably won't do them very much, so you put it on very hot and you keep it there for too long, and well, probably not long at all, and it'll probably set everything on fire or melt everything. So will basically start to damage, deface what you're working on. So they're, you know, they're very, very basic and they're not very, you know, you can't really do very delicate work, things like that with those kind of heat guns that just seem to be the ones that are on the market nowadays, unfortunately. But I did come across this one, and the Silverline for around the £20 price point. It is worth spending an extra £5 or an extra tenner in, depending on which gun you was going to pick up for the extra. Well, you've got 3 speeds as opposed to the 2, so you've got an extra speed, and it's honestly worth it for the price point to get a gun that you can dial the temperature in accurately with at the back. Now there are some others there, and their dial is like on the side, and it's like a tiny dial with numbers on, and you scroll it back and forth like that along on the handle or on the very top of the unit. But those, so a lot of those ones are around £50. Do I really want to spend? Yeah, like I said, it's a tool that I use a lot, but do I really want to spend £50 on something that's probably going to have a similar lifespan? Because let's be honest, they've all got similar components inside for the meat and 2 potatoes. You know, you've got the motor and the element that heats up. And they're probably all made out in Taiwan anyway, or China. So honestly, you know, I don't really think spending for as long as the Aldi one lasted me, which was a cheap gun, and I used it constantly. You know, £20 for now with a 3-year guarantee. If within that 3 years it does go wrong, you get another one. It's good enough for me. And even then, another £20 later, another £20 for another one in a couple of years. If it does go, if you forget to do the guarantee, then it's in my book that's fine. Now the design of it, yeah, it's a little bit plasticky. I don't know, some people might or might not like this science fiction ray gun type design bit here at the front. They may or they may not, but you know, function wise, it's certainly, in my opinion, you know, regardless of what you might personally think of what's stamped on a tool, the manufacturer, for the price point, I think it's one of the better ones, the better heat guns options you've got there for an analogue, especially at the £20 price point, because like I say, it's all about this, dialing in the exact temperature, you know, to that arrow there, and getting delicate jobs done. If you want a serious heat gun, analog heat gun, that you're going to be doing things like, you know, vinyl wrapping vehicles and shrink wrapping on your electrical terminals, your soldered joints, things like that, then you know, something like this is going to be what you want, really. Otherwise, something else, it's just going to be like, you know, trying to use a bludgeon to perform you know, something you would do with keyhole surgery kind of thing, if you know what I mean. You know, you're throwing heat at something that only needs something, you know, the slightest of touches of heat on. So to be honest with you, I think this is one of the better options that you've got out there for that price range, regardless of who you like and don't like for tools. I personally think Silverline are okay. I've had a power sander from them for a few years. That's still working. That's still going fine. A belt sander. The one thing was the one thing that pulled out from the belt sander at the side, pulled out from the slot. What you loosen the belt sander with, you know, the arm that comes out from the side. The plastic warped slightly from the heat from the friction of the belt sander, but I think I was using that a lot, probably for about 6 or 7 years now. So, and it's still going, so I can't really complain for the price that I paid. But you know, there's always things that all tool companies could improve on. But you know, so it's, you know, there are digital ones out there, but again, £80, £60 for a heat gun. You can dial in the you know, a more accurate heat range digitally with the buttons and a little LCD display on the top or the side. on those kind of heat guns, but you know, you want to spend another £50 and for the sake of you know, a dial over a button and an LCD display, you know, that's personally I don't think it's worth it. So I think it's a fairly decent heat gun. There's nothing really too much to see. This little specification thing here. So it just says 2000 watt hair gun adjustable. There's a number on there, 125963. If that'll help you find the exact unit. Obviously it's got the silverline2000W on there. I don't know, really no other, just the input voltage. And again, it's 2000 watts. There's no other real information on there. The box itself that we looked at in there, you've got your manual. Comes in there, and as well as the nozzle that I've already been using that's on there. You do get a selection of nozzles in a bag. So you get that kind of heat deflecting nozzle there, kind of like a ring on there, and like deflect that down. Another deflector type nozzle there, just deflect the heat. Probably be more ideal for shrink wrapping things. If you've got a big cable with some shrink, where you've soldered a joint or something, and you've got some shrink wrap, you just lay that over there and it'll reflect the heat around that shrink wrap, and it'll shrink it nicer. But you know, heat guns put out that, you know, a fair amount of heat anyway, that you don't really need to use. You can just drift it over shrink wrapping anyway, and it just tends to work okay. And you got one of these types of nozzles. Now I use these types of nozzles a lot when stripping certain types of gloss paint and things like that off exterior like window frames, things like that, on some places. Sometimes they're more ideal for things like your skirting, the gloss paint and your skirting boards in the home, but you obviously got to make sure that you've got nothing like carpet or lino or anything on the underneath against them that will melt. Again, that's another good thing for the focusing the heat range, because again, for things like that, carpet and things like that on skirting, stripping paint off skirting boards, which the other guns can't. You've got full blast and destroy everything, or you know, #1 setting that's not much good for anything. So where with this one you've also got 3 settings, and you can focus on each of the settings just how hot you want that to be. So there's the nozzles that you get with them. But personally, I think I can fit the old Aldi Work Zone nozzles as well on this one. So that's a bonus. That's a bonus for me. Obviously, it wasn't exactly an unboxing because I'd already got it out and already been using the thing. But all in all, I'd actually recommend this heat gun if you're looking for one with a bit of accuracy at the price range. There isn't really much else out there, to be honest. So that's the Silverline Silver Storm 2000 watt hot air gun, fully adjustable.